Originally, I was planning to release a different video today, but this takes precedence, definitely. The original creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Michael Dante DiMartino and Bryan Konietzko, have left Netflix's Avatar remake. This is shocking news, especially because Netflix had assured the showrunners that they could have complete creative control. So why did this happen? Is the project still going to move forward? If it is, should it? And if it shouldn't move forward, and we as a fan community disagree with the decision of the program to move forward, what should we do about it? Let's talk about this situation. I had believed fan skepticism about this remake to be unwarranted. Sure, it wasn't necessary. The original Avatar: The Last Airbender, while not perfect, was one of the greatest animated shows of all time, and one of the greatest shows of any kind in the 2000s. It didn't need to be remade, but I at least thought that the remake would be good. I thought that it would bring the show to a wide audience. I thought that it would be successful in cementing Avatar as one of the definitive fantasy series of the 21st century, right up there with Harry Potter and The Lord of the Rings. Sadly, it looks as though this will not be the case. The only reason fans were willing to give this remake a chance after the disaster that was the M. Night Shyamalan 2010 film adaptation was that the creators were on board. Now that faith has evaporated. I probably don't need to remind you all of the Hindenburg-sized disaster that was that M. Night Shyamalan movie, but yeah, it is exactly as bad as everyone says. I watched it twice, and that is 2 times too many. That film is so bad that there are still to this day video essays being made that serve no function other than to just give that film a thrashing. Will the new series, if it airs, be quite that bad? I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd say probably not, but that's only because it's such a low bar to clear. The cogent point here is that the chances of it being anywhere near as good as the original have dropped precipitously. Before I read to you the letters Konietzko and DiMartino posted, I want you to know that typically when creative people post statements announcing that they split from a project due to creative differences between them and the studio, these statements are usually anodyne and full of a lot of suggestions, a lot of implicit stuff. Just trying to keep it as civil as possible. Even the term creative differences itself is something of a euphemism. Behind those two words, there's typically so much fighting, so much heartbreak, so many days and weeks and months, and even sometimes years of disappointments. So by the typically civil standards of these statements, the ones that Konietzko and DiMartino put out are very strongly worded. Both these letters are heartbreaking. There's so much despair and bitterness there. Let's start with Konietzko's take. When Netflix brought me on board to run the series along with Mike 2 years ago, they made a very public promise to support our vision. Unfortunately, there was no follow-through on that promise. Though I got to work with some great individuals, both on Netflix's side and on our small development team, the general handling of the project created what I thought was a negative and unsupportive environment. These are harsh words. Konietzko and DiMartino are, by all accounts, compassionate and pacifistic people, and they have created one of the most kind-hearted and empathetic shows ever put to television. They were its guiding lights. I doubt they would say anything anywhere near this harsh unless it left them that bitter. For them to dismiss the show on such unequivocal terms, things must have been really, really bad. Must have been an environment where they had little choice other than to stop. To go on would have been disastrous for their mental and emotional health. Konietzko's statement continues, "To be clear, this was not a simple matter of us not getting our way. Mike and I are collaborative people. We did not need all the ideas to come from us. As long as we felt those ideas were in line with the spirit and integrity of Avatar, we would have happily embraced them. However, we ultimately came to the belief that we would not be able to meaningfully guide the direction of the series. This, even though Netflix promised them creative control and put them in charge of shepherding the project to completion." Konietzko offers his hopes for the new series, a gesture of kindness and charity and compassion. But even while doing this, he sounds bitter and a bit broken-hearted. He ends by saying he will devote his talent, energy, and time to projects that are fulfilling and projects where he is treated with respect and trust. The clear implication being that Netflix did not treat them both with respect and trust, and thus this was not fulfilling. Typically, when creative differences come into play, a director or showrunner is trying to make a unique artistic vision, and the higher-ups are trying to water it down into something they consider a safe money-making venture, similar to things they've already made money with before. They are not capable of thinking artistically. That's bad enough in of itself, and I know very few people who don't automatically take the artist's side in these kinds of situations. But it's a different ball game we're talking about for a show like this, where all they're doing is adapting what is considered to be one of the greatest animated shows of all time to live action. It is not a hard process. It's not nearly as hard as adapting a book to a movie or a book to a TV show. You are taking a TV show and turning it into another TV show. The only difference is that one was animated and the other is live action. This should not be that hard. You just do what worked before. I'm not saying there aren't things you could add or subtract from the original, but the soul of the show, its spirit, should be the same. Sadly, it appears that Netflix has chosen to cut out the heart of the show. I don't know why, but I do believe that their vision very strongly differs from the vision that created the show we know and love. Maybe they wanted to overload it with romance. Maybe they wanted to make it far more morally simple. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not something that should leave us all feeling comfortable. Michael Dante DiMartino's statement is more philosophical, but it's no less loaded with somber disappointment. I'll read from his statement now. In a joint announcement for the series, Netflix said that it was committed to honoring our vision for this retelling, and to supporting us on creating the series. And we expressed how excited we were for the opportunity to be at the helm. Unfortunately, things did not go as we had hoped. He compares himself to an air nomad in his ability and willingness to adapt. I do my best to go with the flow no matter what obstacle is in my way. But even an air nomad knows when to cut their losses and move on. I started to reevaluate what is truly important in my life and what I wanted to do with what was left of it. I took some advice from Uncle Iroh. I looked inward and started asking myself the big question, who are you and what do you want? I also sought wisdom from Stoic philosophers who were big on differentiating between what is within our control and what isn't. I realized I could not control the creative direction of the series, but I could control how I responded. So I chose to leave the project. It was the hardest professional decision I've ever made, and certainly not one I took lightly, but it was necessary for my happiness and creative integrity. That's about as magnanimous a statement as anyone could be expected to make. I can admire his restraint. I probably would not have been so restrained under the conditions he describes. Like his fellow showrunner, DiMartino says that he wishes the new show the best, and that he hopes it will be good, but that regardless of how it turns out, it does not reflect his intentions and ideas for the show. He ends the statement with the quote Iroh gives to Aang when they're looking for Katara and Zuko beneath the city of Ba Sing Se, and Aang is asking for advice about his philosophical dilemma concerning the ethics of detaching from the world. Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you keep going, you will come to a better place. Reading these statements, I feel like a murderer mystery detective who's just discovered the truth about the case. I'm filled with catharsis and profound despondency. Catharsis because I finally have an explanation for what's been going on. It's great to know what's actually happening. Great to know why there's been so little information about the new Netflix adaptation, even though it has been a full 23 months since the adaptation was announced with such fanfare. Despondency because people I deeply respect and admire were treated so poorly, and because Netflix apparently wants to cut out the soul of a show that has meant a lot to millions of people. So what should we do about this show? Is it still going to be produced? I wish I could say the answer is no. But I think we all know that the Avatar: The Last Airbender brand is too valuable for them to just scrap the project now. It might be in development hell for a couple of years, but there is going to most likely be a live-action show based on Avatar: The Last Airbender coming in the next couple of years, and it will likely have little to do with the original vision of the showrunners. So what are we going to do about that? We have to decide whether it is that we really want to watch it. There's a possibility that it could go the same route as the Shyamalan 2010 film, where it is so overwhelmingly rejected by both hardcore fans and general audiences that they never make it past Book 1, Water, and the fight with Zhao in the Northern Water Tribe. But there's also a possibility that if they find out there's support, they could keep making the show. Should we watch it? I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, you shouldn't watch the show just because they backstab the original creators. I'm not that kind of person. It's your decision, and it's yours to make for yourself. But you have to ask yourself whether you really want to watch a show that, number one, will most likely be mediocre at best, and number two, will be made by people who backstab the creators of this beautiful, vivid, vibrant world we've all learned to love over the last 15 years. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. The original show is still as brilliant, ambitious, and empathetic as you remember it. It will still be there to watch, so whatever happens, we're going to keep watching it. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.